Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 34 of Be With Me. And today's title is A Child of Growth, Strength, Wisdom, and Favor. And we are smack dab in the middle of Jesus' childhood. And the entire childhood, or almost the entire childhood, is summarized, I think, in the Bible in one single verse. And we're going to talk about that today and end up with awe, I hope. We're in Luke chapter 2, and Jesus, Mary, and Joseph have returned from Egypt. They maybe tried to settle in Judea, in Jerusalem, in Joseph's hometown. That didn't work out because of the bad guy Archelaus, and they've returned up to Nazareth. So here it is, verse 39. And when they had performed everything according to the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee, to their own town, Mary's own town specifically, of Nazareth. And then here's our verse for today. And the child grew and became strong, filled with wisdom, and the favor of God was upon him. And all four of these things, that is growth, strength, wisdom, and favor, all four of those things ultimately only come from the Lord. The first thing that hit me today, that Mary and Joseph were doing things according to the law. So they're not quite there yet. They're under the old covenant. They're not pure. They're not they're Old Testament, so to speak, so far. And they're just waiting. They're still waiting. Remember how we defined waiting, which was faithful obedience and activity until he comes. And we're going to find some of that in their parenting today. So the irony is that Jesus is in their household, and we're going to see how they're doing as parents and spiritual nurturers. And so verse 40 tells us, and that is he grows, he becomes strong, he becomes wise, and the favor of God. Now, all four of those things are shepherded, if you will, by parents, but ultimately all four of those things only come from the Lord. So the first one is he grows. Now, growth is, so how do you know something is alive? The number one characteristic that you find that something is alive is that it grows. So things that are dead don't grow at all. So this makes me think of John 1:4, and in him was life. So life is something that he invented, that's he created. And then the crazy thing is that he puts himself as a subject to life. And the parents and the grandparents are riding shotgun to this. And for those of you that are parents or grandparents, every day is like this. If you have a child, there's a new word or a new ability or a new success that they've had. They're doing life, and your job as a parent is to cultivate that and sort of curate their life and send them in the right direction. But ultimately, it's something that he invented, and he puts himself under this thing of life as we know it. So that was cool. Second thing is strength. So how are they doing? How are they doing as parents? How is Jesus doing as a person? And it's described as abundance, that he becomes strong, that there is growth, that there is increase, that there is faithfulness. So I think the growth and the strength, on one hand, we tip our hat to the Lord because he's the only one that gives life. He's the only one that gives growth. He's the only one that can ultimately give strength. But all those things are ushered in by parental obedience. So I think this verse tells us a lot about Jesus, but it also tells us a lot about his parents, and then later on his one parent, because Joseph dies at some point, we think. So there's a security. So how do children become strong and thrive? It's the security that this environment that parents go. All right. So the third thing is wisdom. And not a lot of children, I think, are full of wisdom. We know that Jesus, when this verse was written, is less than 12 years old. And most children are marked with more by foolishness and error, and foolishness is something that is driven out by parents and corrected by parents. Their parents are the only ones that tell you that you're doing stuff wrong in life. So maybe some of that is credited with the parents, but wisdom is ultimately an activity of the Lord. Lady wisdom is from the Lord. So anybody who is demonstrating wisdom, let's say in a political office or something like that, ultimately you know that that is from the Lord, even if they're not a Christian or a believer. All right, so then the last thing is the favor of God was on him, and I should hope so, as the Savior of the world. But I was thinking about the Trinity today, the favor of God being a two-way street. You scratch my back and I scratch yours. That I give you favor and I receive favor from you. And I think the Trinity, in all my wisdom, I'm going to tell you about the Trinity today. I think the Trinity describes that just a little bit, that I think the Lord is pleased with us. He wants us. He blesses us. He shines on us. He smiles on us. And that's kind of, I suppose, the prosperity gospel, which there's a truth to the prosperity gospel, is that God has looked on us and smiled on us. But then the response is, I am pleased with him. I am in awe of him. I am responding to that in worship and magnifying him. So my prayer for you today, for all of us, is that we would have these four characteristics of the Lord. So Lord, I pray for my listeners today. I pray that they would have life, that they would grow physically and spiritually and relationally, emotionally. I pray that they would have strength that only you can give, that you would give abundance and increase in obedience. I pray that there would be ruts in the road of their faithfulness, in moderation, in purity, in provision, in service, and in discipline. I pray that those ruts would be deep, and I pray that you could give them wisdom that's only from you, and give me wisdom that's only from you. And you can give me favor like you and the Father experienced, where the favor of God was upon going down in one direction, and that we would respond also in the other direction, that we would respond with awe and worship. So Lord, I thank you so much for this word of the history of your childhood in a single sentence of growth and strength and wisdom and favor. Thank you for your word today. I'll see you tomorrow.